like to call this work session of the Southampton Town Board to order on this 5th day of January, 2023. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Sunday, would you call the roll?
Certainly. Supervisor Schneiderman.
I'm here.
Councilman McNamara. Here. Councilman Martell.
Here.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Scavone.
I am present.
All right, first work session of the year. And we're all here or present.
It's a thing. Why is it a thing?
We're presently here. You know, we ought to have like a rule that, like, work sessions, this is what you're supposed to answer.
You tried that last year,
I
Jay,
know,
didn't work.
you guys are unruly.
It's kind of like the approved.
It's your end of the table that can't get it right.
It's kind of like
Yes,
trying
or I.
to appoint a Speaker of the
I
House.
There is no definitive thing that tells you what the, whether presidents are here.
I say
appropriate.
here because it's less formal for the work sessions, and present because it's more formal for the town board meetings.
Now you're getting technical.
But you
Okay.
guys do whatever you
Well,
want,
good.
because no matter what I say, you will win. So,
Well, technically, if you answer, you're here. So if you said I or whatever.
As long as Sunday accepts it, we're good.
Exactly. All right. So, the first order of business today is just to review the draft agenda for our January 10th meeting. It's going to be a 1 o'clock meeting here at Town Hall. We're going to continue to do these hybrid meetings. They seem to be working out okay. A little challenging. I don't know if we're going to do them forever, but for now, and COVID is still out there, this new variant is growing in terms of cases. It's more infectious, more transmissible than the past ones. I don't think it's any more severe, but it's spreading like crazy, particularly in the northeast of our country. So we're in the zone. All right. So we have 4 public hearings. First one, to consider acquisition of land at 12 Bathing Beach Road, Southampton, and amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include that property. Second one, again, is on acquisition of land. This one at 3398 Noyak Road and 146 Old Noyak Road, Noyak, and amend the CPF management and stewardship plan. The third public hearing is consider historic landmark designation for the structure recognized as the Diamond Family Farmhouse. That's located at 14 Flying Point Road in Watermill. And the last hearing is to consider improvements to the Hampton Bays Water District pursuant to Town Law 202B. And then we get to resolutions. Any questions about the public hearing? All right, Rick, you got the first
So the
one.
first resolution is Town Board Resolution ID 42089, co-sponsored with Councilman Bouvier. Authorize the supervisor to execute a 2023 stewardship agreement with Patricia Obi to provide security services at Ludlam Avenue Park in Riverside.
Town Board Resolution ID 41990, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, to authorize conducting a stop day events using town South Coast contract with MXI Environmental Services LLC. Town Board Resolution 42042, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, to authorize purchase of supply and deliver auto parts from Fleet Pride Incorporated using East Hampton contract. Oh, it's one more. Town Board Resolution 41985 is to authorize the supervisor to sign a 2023 contract extension with Coastal Commercial Property Incorporated for landscaping services.
Okay, this, a reminder, so these agenda reviews, it's not to prove that we know how to read. It's just simply, if anybody has any questions about the agenda before we finalize it, and to give, media proper notice or ample time to review it prior to our meeting. So if you guys have a question about a resolution, chime in, okay? 41946, authorizing supervisor to sign a contract extension for liquid propane gas with the Starlight Propane Gas Corporation. The next one, 41967, authorizes me to sign an extension with United Metro Energy Corp. for low diesel fuel. And John, you're next.
42016 is authorize the supervisor to sign contract extension or extensions for embroidered and silk screen clothing with J&G Awards in Sports and New York NYS Industries for the Disabled Corporation. Town Board Resolution ID 42015, authorize the supervisor to sign contract extensions for hardware and various items for pickup.
Is that, oh, it's not for a pickup truck, it's to pick
To
up?
pick up, yeah.
Okay, I guess, all right. All right, 42019, authorize the supervisor to authorize the purchase, sorry, it doesn't say the supervisor, authorize the purchase of maintenance, repair, and operation supplies, parts, equipment, materials, and related services from the Omnia Partners contract with W.W. Granger. 42024 authorizes me to sign a 2023 agreement with Penflex, Inc. for the Defined Benefit Service Award Program.
42093, authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Level G Associates for professional services related to Phase 2 of Southampton Parking Management Plan. 42046, authorize the supervisor to sign a 2023 Bridgehampton Park District grant agreement with the Bridgehampton Museum.
I'd like to be added to that.
So would I, Cindy.
Okay.
42037, authorize the supervisor to execute a 2023 Park District grant with Hampton Bays Beautification Association for the maintenance and upkeep of the Main Street Business District.
Hang on one second, because on the one that you guys co-sponsored, so that is the Martyrs Building?
Which, 42037?
Yeah, no, 42046.
No,
Or it's Nathaniel Rogers' house.
part of it is, yes.
15,000 for Virginia Historical Society archive site and 65,000 for
Have we decided what we're doing with the Martyrs Park?
and that's why I'm asking about this. We're authorizing Park District
Martyrs
money,
Daniel Rogers' house.
Nathaniel Rogers site in the amount of 30,000, 15,000 for the Bridgehampton Historical Society archive site, which I guess is upstairs,
It's, well, that.
and 65,000, well, they're not gonna do much with 15,000, that must be just the archive.
It's the
area.
archive, that's what I understand it with, I can't remember her name.
Mina?
Mina,
Need a
yeah.
deck.
In the second whereas, there seems to be a zero missing in the
Was it?
$30,000.
Were you looking, as a,
There's a zero
Second
missing.
whereas.
It reads 3,000 instead of 30.
oh, it says 30,
30.
comma, 00, it should be one more zero.
Okay.
Can we fix that?
Yes, Scrivener zero.
All right.
It's also in the resolve clause.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's twice the same,
Okay.
cut and paste error. So let's fix it in both places. Thank you, Janice, for picking that up. So where were we now?
So we did 42037. 42036, authorize the supervisor to execute a 2023 Parking District grant with the Hampton Bays Beautification Association for the maintenance and upkeep of the Main Street Business District and public parking areas.
And what are we doing there? This is their typical,
Yeah,
right?
this is there every year.
All the
They
little
do a fantastic
hanging
job, yeah.
flowers and, no, they really do. We're fortunate that we have a group like that, that can,
Can I co-sponsor that, Cindy?
you want to add,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
The
Cindy would like to
42036.
co-sponsor 42036 for
Absolutely.
HB, BAB, Hampton Bays Beautification.
HBBA, yeah.
That's
HBB.
3,700.
What is it, HBBA?
HBBA.
HBBA, right. All right, Rick, you're
Okay,
still up.
Town Board Resolution 42039, authorize supervisor to execute a 2022 Park District grant agreement with the Hampton Bays Historical and Preservation Society.
And this is for Canoe Place and Prosper King,
Yep,
Cuffey Cemetery,
hat shop, all the good stuff.
bunch of properties. Yeah, they do a nice job over there, too. Okay.
Town Board Resolution ID 42029, authorizes,
Where are we?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It says authorize supervisor to execute a 2022 Park District grant agreement.
Well,
It may be a 2022 agreement,
that was its expiration.
but it's extended. Let me see.
financial impact says for 2023.
retroactively commence January 1, 2023, and expire December 31. So it really should be a 2023 agreement. So
Okay.
let's fix that in the title.
Okay, got it.
Thank you, Janice, for catching that.
Actually, Robert
I'm
Ross
still
also
dating
caught that.
checks with 2023. I haven't adjusted yet.
Robert Ross texted me about that one yesterday.
It takes a while. It takes a while. It's 2023, folks. Okay. Rick?
Okay, ID number 42029, authorize the supervisor to execute a 2023 Park District grant with Watermill Community Club for the beautification and cultural development of the Watermill Community Club. Again, that's our yearly.
You know, a lot of people, that's that recreational facility, right? A lot of people don't know about that that's a public facility. They think it's a private club. It's called Watermill Community Club. And I guess there's some parts of it, I know our tax receiver's on the board there, or even head of the board maybe, but they have some nice athletic facilities. I've never used it, but it's funded with taxpayer money through that Parks District.
I played
But it's-
soccer there as a kid.
It's open to everybody. But
Well,
it's,
we've
well,
used the building too on a lot of occasions for
Have you?
Kiwanis and Ducks
Ducks Unlimited
Unlimited. Yep.
uses it.
I don't think many people know that that's a public facility, personally. There's no signage that says it's open to the public. It just feels like a private club, but maybe we can do a better job to let people know that they can go there and, what do they have there? Tennis and
It's a nice
baseball
field.
field?
Tennis, soccer, baseball, and in the building.
They might even have pickleball. Somebody said they have some pickleball courts there, too. Don't laugh at pickleball.
We're not.
All right.
All right, town resolution
good
ID number
sport.
42027, authorize the supervisor to execute a 2023 Park District grant with Watermill Museum for the maintenance and upkeep of the Watermill Museum. Town Board Resolution ID 42031, authorize the supervisor to execute a 2023 Park District grant with the Watermill Village Improvement Association for the beautification and cultural development of the Watermill Hamlet Center. Town Board Resolution 42096, co-sponsored with Councilman Bouvier, authorized the supervisor to execute a 2023 stewardship agreement with Alan Schneider to provide security services at Squiretown Park in Hampton Bays.
That's good. You got me doing a lot of executing here. 42018, authorize the supervisor to execute a contract extension with Quag Sinclair for Supply Number 2 Fuel, Inc. 42080, authorize the supervisor to execute an extended contract with a part-time program coordinator for the Peconic Estuary Program. 42050, authorize the supervisor to renew an agreement with RecPro Software by RC Systems to manage its parks and recreation operations.
I'd like to be added to that.
With
I'm sorry,
RecPro,
who would like to?
Yep.
and 42050, John would like to co-sponsor. 41935, authorize me to renew contract for CPF appraisal services.
I'd like to be added to that as well.
All right.
On 935?
Yes, please.
And then 41991, authorize me to sign 2023 contract extensions with towing companies. 42014 authorizes me to sign a contract extension with Peer Enterprises, Inc., doing business as Ricky's Plumbing Supply for the supply of plumbing supplies to the town. We got a bunch of co-sponsors there.
Oh,
Tommy John.
look at that. Town Board Resolution 41952, to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Electronic Systems for monthly monitoring of alarm systems contained at all plants located in the Hampton Bays Water District.
Town Board Resolution ID 42077, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, authorized the supervisor to sign contract extension for district-wide well and pump maintenance and repair at the Hampton Bays Water District with Delta Well and Pump Company Incorporated. Town Board Resolution ID 41983, award and authorize supervisor to sign contract for cold patch pavement repair material. Town Board Resolution ID 42020, co-sponsored with Councilwoman
All right, 42079 authorizes me to sign a contract for a 2023 Chevrolet Malibu. 41961 declares item surplus and authorizes disposal of staff trailer. 42022 recalls an amend authorizing the supervisor to extend a professional services agreement with Leonard J. Marchese, MBA CPA. Does that need to say the resolution number in the title? Should it say recall and amend resolution 2022-635 authorizing? Because there was a number of resolutions authorizing him to do specific things. Can we add that to the title,
Certainly.
the specific, what we're amending?
Recall and amend resolution
2022-635 to authorize the supervisor.
635 and authorize. Okay.
Well, they're,
We did a number of them.
yeah, that's right.
So, all right, 42007, recall and amend Town Board Resolution 2022-798 and 2022-910, Nelson Pope Engineering, Architecture and Land Surveying, PPLC for Shinnecock Hills Extension. All right, that's that exit to that Greenfield community. We're just doing additional survey.
Mr. Supervisor, can we go back to that one?
Yeah, because there's 3 different amounts that we're doing there.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Oh, there's a number of resolutions.
Yeah, that's,
2014.
Not to exceed language.
Was there a resolution, 2022,
well,
2014?
214 had a do not exceed clause in it, and this is exceeding that. I guess that's why is that right, Janice? That's what I understood.
Well, if you read the resolve clause, that you're actually amending 2022-214,
Yeah.
2014.
And that's the one that had the,
Had the
do
limitation.
not exceed 20 grand on it. This exceeds it.
Yeah.
You're right. So let's change that. Thank you, Janice, for catching that. So the title should say recall and amend Resolution 2022-2014 to authorize the supervisor. All right?
Okay.
Sunday, you got that?
Got it.
And I read the next one, right? 42007.
Yes.
That's an additional, I think it's 9,500 for survey work. All right, 42094, 2023 notice of bidders for printing of envelopes. 42044 is 2023 notice of bidders for tree and stump removal. Cindy, you're next. Or did I skip one?
Oh, no, I'm next. 42088, 2023, co-sponsored with Councilman Martell, 2023 request for proposals for professional engineering services for the development of a community park in Speonk.
I'd like to be added to that, please.
Okay.
All right, 42090, request for proposals for lease of town-owned land for the purpose of design, construction, and management of wireless communication structures. Hang on a second. What property are we looking at? Jim, do you know? I mean, I'm glad we're doing something for cell towers, because we need them.
There was 2 different locations. One was North Sea, I believe, in the landfill there, and the other one was the commercial, Shinnecock Commercial Dock, yeah.
Okay, this
Yeah,
is not
it's-
Club Lane, this is the
No,
And it's only
North Sea
town-owned.
landfill area and the Shinnecock Commercial Dock.
yeah.
Okay, good. And are you, Janice, are you managing this, or?
Yes, well, it's a joint effort between me and Glenn Schmiegel from.
Okay. Is Len helping with this or no? Oh, good, yeah, because I had asked them to, I'd like to see some progress, because the cell service is so bad, and everybody complains about it. It's hard to get cell towers because people don't, they're afraid of the visual impacts, but they want to be able to call 911 and get a signal if they're in trouble. And it also turns out to be a decent source of revenue for the town to help keep taxes from going up. So I'm glad we're doing something. It's just figuring it out, getting it right. And once they're up, like the one in Watermill that went up, the private one, and nobody's complained about it once.
Don't even notice.
You don't even know it's there. It looks like a pole, just a flagpole. And so today's cell towers can be really, I think, non-objectionable. They can be all internal and painted in a way that you don't even notice them. But anyway, so 42021 amends the 2023 operating budget for professional services. John?
ID 42083, appoint Southampton Town Historical Burial Ground Committee for 2023.
Is that,
Is it another one?
Sunday, that's
The same thing.
different than the cultural,
Yes, it is.
Yes,
we have
These-
a
this
separate
group is
committee that's
charged-
a stewardship committee, but this is for,
Burial
These people are charged
cemeteries.
with the management and oversight of the town's, it used to be 10 historic cemeteries. Now I believe we're up to 11 or 12, as we found a couple as we purchased CPF properties that were hidden away.
but we're not involved with any Native American burial grounds on this, or it's all?
these
No.
are for town-owned.
We have Cuffey's, Reverend Cuffey's gravesite that is near Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays,
All right,
that we maintain.
So we may want to consider adding somebody to this?
We have, over the years.
A representative from the Shinnecock
Always
Nation?
have invited someone to participate, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And we're also able to share the ground penetrating radar when appropriate.
We use the, they're an active group, and Judge Cooperson has just joined us to represent the Bridgehampton, Noyak area.
And Janice, that law we put in place to try to avoid desecration of graves, and, because that's working out so far?
There's a few nuances to it that could be corrected, but for the most part.
People are doing that,
They do the,
archaeology?
Site disturbance plans prior to
okay,
digging.
all right, excellent.
Mhm.
All right,
State,
When you were crafting that
Yeah.
other
The
committee,
governor vetoed
you
the,
also consulted with
legislation.
Roger Charleston, who is the chair of this committee, to discuss, the differences between the two.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the state, Jim, you're pointing out that the governor vetoed similar legislation, it wasn't identical, but similar legislation at the state level.
yeah, some of our language was based on the proposed language that has been presented to the state for years. It just, for some reason,
So New York remains one of, I think, only 4 states in the country that doesn't have that type of legislation, but
yeah,
I
statewide.
do believe it will. I think that bill will be passed again with some changes to it. And there will be a state law, there almost was, but the governor, for whatever reason, I haven't read the veto message.
Yeah, and we're looking to set up another stewardship meeting with some of the folks, with Jackie and Dan and myself from CPF, with some of the folks from the nation, to just talk about, the current acquisitions in the Shinnecock area, or Shinnecock Hills area, and what else we can be doing together. So that's going to be coming up soon.
All right, so 42025 retains Brian Lester, Esquire, of Tarbit and Lester, PLLC, as special counsel for 2023. Is that for a particular project, Jim, or just in general? Oh, disciplinary hearings, employee disciplinary hearings. I see. Okay. 41933, public interest order in the matter of the increase and improvement of the facilities of the Hampton Bays Water District pursuant to Town Law 202B. 42074, it's a bond authorization of $3.2 million to increase, for increase and improvement of Hampton Bays Water District facilities. So that's a pretty big bond, it's gonna need 4 votes. And this is for infrastructure within the Hampton Bays Water District, so I don't know specifically which is this is going to. It's probably a number of different upgrades and projects, but maybe we could get, let me take a look at it. This is
the
that
Ram-
water main into
Right.
Rampasture,
Ram pasture.
including hydrants. Then it's also the data acquisition software system. So it's those two things. So it's a water main replacement to Rampasture, which is a big component here. All right, 42033, it's a bond for $1 million for new park facilities at 178 Old Country Road in Speonk.
I'd like to be added to that, I don't know if you wanna.
Yeah.
Please tell me
Sunday, if you
if,
can add me to that.
This is the Spionk.
Yes.
I hope this is actual construction, not just planning.
No, we had the money for planning.
We already had the money for planning.
Section 1 for
So
paying
this
the
is gonna-
cost of construction.
This is, hold on a second, paying
The cost of
paying the cost
construction.
of construction of the new park recreation facility.
So I-
We're not gonna get the whole park built for $1 million,
This is just the first phase.
First, yeah.
The first phase. of
the first phase, but there actually will be athletic facilities
I
that
think
this
there were-
million,
Correct. So we already have the money for the
Planning.
engineering. This is just to do, I don't think it was decided what phase we were gonna be doing. I think Kristen is still
so
looking.
we'll get $1 million worth of park improvements.
Correct.
Are we starting with a baseball field, a soccer field, what it?
I'm not sure which
Yeah, I
one
believe it's
they
mostly the
decided
parking
yet.
lots. I don't think you're gonna get a field for the first $1 million.
This is, my understanding, this is all the infrastructure in
Right.
support of it.
Okay,
Sunday, could you add me to that as well?
So far I have Rick, John, Cindy.
all right.
I know that we put aside money in
And Jay, I
2022
suppose, right?
for the engineering
Jay's the
reports.
sponsor.
the sponsor.
And
He's already
control,
on
you know,
there.
design,
They're the
and then
additions.
based on that, I don't
Right,
think we
would you
got the
put me on
design
there?
yet.
'Cause it's
Then
not
we're
like I'm
gonna
a
decide
no.
what we're gonna be building in
Okay.
phase
Wait
one.
for you to tell me.
Okay, so the money we put aside.
Correct.
I mean, I knew it
We
was
just
money.
went
work,
out for
I
the
didn't
bids,
realize we were-
correct.
The money
Alright,
we
well-
put aside, plus what we had left from Hampton West, went into the
Right,
engineering
it
and
was
design.
like $695,000, right, and we haven't done the
Now, we
design.
had.
And they had to make more access
Since
up
you're,
the upper.
since you're
I'm
here, so with some of these bonds, I know we had some ARPA money that we applied last year. I don't know.
Correct.
And I don't know if some of that is part of that. I know that we had some surplus toward the end of the year that, we modified the budget and used some of that mortgage tax income for different things. But then we're also this year, when we reconcile the books, likely, I don't know yet, because of the county hack may change things in terms of our numbers, but there may be some surpluses that arise that go beyond what we projected in terms of our surplus balance, and we have that debt reduction policy.
Correct. So when we get our fund balances at the end of the March, because we stop accruing to, prior year, then we'll know our fund balances. And in the budget, in the adopted budget, we included our projected forecast for fund balances. If there's a difference and our fund balances exceed our, projection, then 75% of that will be for the debt reduction. It
So
will
what is-
apply to these capital projects.
It won't, because.
It will.
It will.
Because we'll have already gone out to bond for these.
No, well, we have to do, but this is just getting the authorization to bond. We don't have to actually bond for that amount. We can bond when we actually go for borrowing. We'll be borrowing
Right, but there's
less,
a
depending
cost
on our
of
projection.
Going out to bond, with preparing that bond is fairly expensive. So, when we first did that debt reduction policy, it wasn't typical for us to do these bond authorizations so early in the year.
Oh, yes, we always did. We actually
I
did them at
remember-
the end of, we would normally do them at the end of 2022.
At the
We've
end, but then it
always-
was usually around April and May, usually.
No, you need to have those bond authorizations. You can always borrow less. But the bond, just in case our fund balances come less or something happens, would not be able to borrow this money. And remember, some of them need a stop period, which is like 60 days. And so we need those bond authorizations in place before, we don't have to go into borrowing until June or July, but we need to
So
have
have
those
we,
done.
last year's unanticipated reserves that were supposed to go toward 75% of it toward the next round of borrowing?
Correct.
Isn't this the next round of borrowing?
No, because we already used that.
We did.
We did. Now, my projection for the general fund balance was actually came less, so we couldn't use it. There was about 700,000 or 600,000 in highway fund, but we used that. We gave the highway superintendent money to buy equipment, additional equipment last year. So there was really no money left over again from last year's debt reduction policy to use it. We can use this once the fund balances come, at the end of, like I said, March, when we are
Okay,
done
so
accruing
it's
back.
possible that we won't have to actually borrow all this money.
Correct. Yes. But we need to have the power to borrow if we need to.
Can I ask you, just sort of while you're here, have we gotten the money that the county was holding? Yeah, that hack, they held up mortgage tax revenue, they held up CPF revenue.
Correct.
they
So
held up
the
a-
third quarter of mortgage tax, we just received December 28th. We'd have received a check for the taxes collection. Remember that they were like $5.6 million.
Right,
We received that.
We got that.
Toward the end of December, correct. I'm not sure if we got the money for police department, the sales tax revenue. I have to look into that. That I can't recall.
that's like $3 million.
That's 2.8, yeah, about 2.9. But I would say at 80% we received it, but I can't guarantee, I have to, actually I have to look back.
Because
and
that's
see.
problematic if they hold up that kind of.
Right,
money.
but I think we also, everything that happened at the end of December, I think they finally started cutting checks, and we've
And what, the
received
school
that.
bus camera money, have we,
We've got some of the money from them as well, yes.
okay. And the mortgage tax, you think you may have gotten?
The last check, like I said, it was like $2.9 million, so we're gonna be about, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it was like $6 million over what we budgeted, because we increased our budget throughout the year.
Right.
$1 million was for the purchase
But there was
of,
one period that really was like very small, but that was because of the hack, right?
that's the third quarter, correct. That was what we believe, it was the last third quarter that we received the $2.9 million that affected, we believe, because of the cybersecurity.
So that money, those deals closed later on, and we'll eventually get that money.
Correct. Well, we're hoping that,
So we're gonna get a
yes.
bump in the
And that
next-
will be for the 2023 budget.
Right, because of the way those quarters go. You one
The
quarter
last
of the
quarter,
prior year
right, the
and
fourth
3
quarter,
quarters.
correct. The fourth quarter of the 2022 will be as a
All right.
23 revenue.
All right, I don't want to confuse everybody here.
Three
So-
quarters, yes.
But that county hack really cost us, we're lucky that we got through it, that we were able to make payroll and all these other
Yes,
issues.
well,
'cause-
we are good
Right.
financially, but, so yes, we were able to do it. But we have not been received, it took us a while to receive any kind of money from the county.
All right, so the next one, 42057, is another bond authorization, 200,000 for various boat ramps. 42058 is bond authorization, 125,000 for information technology system, town hall, and police department. The next one, 42061, is a bond authorization for 60,000, post-closure and leachate control improvements at the North Sea landfill and various improvements to the compost facility.
Yeah, I'd like to be added to that, please.
Does anybody know, like, I don't know, Janice, if you'll know this, the answer, or Kathleen, but years ago, in the 1990s, late 80s, 1990s, that's when we were told we had to seal the landfill, shut it down and seal the landfill. And there was supposed to be a 30-year period by which we were supposed to maintain it. And that, unless they've extended it, that 30-year period, it's got to be here. Like, we still need to spend all the money on maintaining the liner and systems there. Maybe we can look into it, because it's become this perpetual thing. And the original requirement, if we read this, there's got to be a DEC stipulation. settlement with the DEC but it was my recollection, 30 years.
What would happen to the care and maintenance?
I mean, can we abandon it?
It's ours.
Is it a
It's-
perpetual
it's
thing?
in here.
Maybe by
It's a
now
usefulness
everything's
of 20
broken down.
years, and we need to make, we do have some responsibility. But don't forget, we're putting
I
a
mean,
solar
we
array
might
there.
be stuck constantly.
Some methane gas.
That's what I understood.
But
it
for,
to be.
for many years, like methane would come out of it through the vent systems. But it was supposed to be a 30-year project. And maybe we're stuck with it forever, I don't know. But by now, I think most of the slopes are probably stabilized and most of the materials are probably broken down.
So we can look at it. Yeah.
Just check, because there's a lot of costs associated with it.
Well, we
sure
have
there are
additional, we have a solar array going in there pretty soon, so there's a lot that we need to do to
Yeah.
prepare for that.
Exactly. And
But that's
And
borne
I'm
by
sure
the
there's some forever
developer.
chemicals in there as well that haven't broken down.
yeah, that's possible. All right, so I guess I'm up to 42062. Another bond authorization, 120,000. Various improvements at the North Sea Fuel Station. 42055, a bond for 145,000. Improvements to town-owned marinas and rec areas.
Can I be added to that?
Sure. You got that, Sandy?
055,
Yep.
yes.
455, yeah. 42070, a bond authorization, 150,000 for sidewalks. Now, that's not the Noyak sidewalks, right?
No, they sure not.
This is different, right?
Is this in addition to the budgeted amount for highway?
This is probably for the highway department, is what I think.
Yes.
It is for highway, right? It's just,
Correct.
I mean,
So
we're bonding,
normally they have-
we're bonding for
Maintain,
sidewalks.
repair and replace town sidewalks, and we budget every year about 150,000.
we do, I thought it was 100, so it's 150 that we budgeted?
So my question is
It's
this a bond?
150,000, correct, for this one, this bond resolution.
And this
Yeah,
is a bond
last
on
year
top
was-
of that?
Correct, this is for highway department, yes. for
This is their
roads.
normal sidewalk.
The normal sidewalks improvements that they do. I'm not sure which
The
one.
normal sidewalk project is budgeted in their line, but this is a bond, so this is
Correct.
separate.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not the same, it is separate.
This is a
and that's
capital
okay, I'm
budget,
just-
not the operating budget, correct. So this is their
Well, they have
budget.
some operating money for sidewalks, right, 100,000, I think.
About, right.
Okay, like I said, until
It's
I'm
been
looking. the-
50.
So this is
Budget,
another,
budget, budget.
another 150,000 on top of it.
Correct,
for-
in capital money for improvements of sidewalks. And like I said, we do 150 for highway department almost every year for capital improvements for
This is also
sidewalks.
for
So,
construction of sidewalks, not
Correct.
just maintenance.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of
Repair and
sidewalks.
replace town sidewalks. That was the description of capital project when it was submitted by the.
Yeah, normally we get a list of the roads, and make sure there's a jurisdiction on the roads is understood.
That may be with the town law 284 that we voted on yesterday. That had the streets,
Yeah,
the contract, but
that's correct.
when they submitted the, budget request, that's all they really put on the resolution.
Yeah, I just recall one year we had an issue with that. It was actually DPW responsibility, not ours.
I would
Because
hope,
I have the
like I
same
said,
issue in Eastport because it's on Montauk Highway.
I know, yes, we do.
All right, so let's keep going. 42066 is for 200,000. It's a bond, reconstruction and replacement of culverts. 42073 is a $200,000 bond for waste management equipment and vehicles. 42064 is a $250,000 bond for rehabilitation of various bridges. Not going to get you very far.
We already have a balance from prior authorizations. I think because we've been doing a little money each year, he's trying to actually, build up in order to be doing any kind of big maintenance and renovation.
So the next one, which Tommy John probably wants to co-sponsor, 42060, is the bond authorization of $250,000 for sidewalks and traffic improvements along Noyak Road. Tommy John, you want to be on that?
No, that's all right.
That's sort of your project. That was a yes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's for the supervisor, you're on the
Yeah,
on all the others, so.
right. No, I mean, well, put me as the lead, but you want to co-sponsor, right? 42068.
Sure, I'll co-sponsor it tonight.
42065 is bond authorization of $300,000 for bulkhead improvements. 42071 is $305,000 for construction of storage arcs for highway barns. That's another bond. 42063 is a bond for $335,000, replacement of HVAC systems at town-owned buildings. 42067 is a $350,000 bond for various townwide drainage improvements. 42068 is a $600,000 bond to reconstruct various town roads. 42072 is an $800,000 bond for metal building at 131 Corwith Avenue, Bridgehampton.
Metal building for what?
That's gotta be highway.
That's highway,
Yes,
there's
it's
a highway
highway.
yard there.
Highway.
It's a highway
Did I say that?
bond.
Did I miss that?
I don't know, it's-
800,000, I guess
don't
they're,
see it.
Rick, do you know they're buying a metal building?
Yeah, what do they call those buildings?
Butler building?
Yeah, that was the one they were using to maintain, clean the trucks, try to get the life expectancy of
Right,
the
right,
vehicles
right.
extended.
So it's got the high, okay.
All right, the next one, 42056, is a $1,250,000 bond for improvements to town parks and recreation areas.
I'd like to co-sponsor.
Yeah, so would I, Sunday, please?
Yes.
That's predominantly Red Creek Park.
That one's Red Creek mostly.
Mostly, but not completely.
Let's see, oh yeah, section 1, costs of town parks and recreation, including installation of tennis, pickleball, basketball, including incidental expenses connection therewith, cost of project.
Pickleball, good, let's move on.
This would include the new skate park in Red Creek also.
Actually says, this is what it says, 3 new tennis courts, 6 new pickleball courts, 2 basketball courts, and then in-house engineering and design as well.
And that's not the skate park there?
It doesn't say the skate park. but
Doesn't
that-
say,
I don't
no.
know, yeah.
No,
I think we
it-
focused
it-
on those other facilities on this one, and when we did that, the bond,
I think they want to
They
do that.
wanted to, but then they said that we really have to do that one part.
They're gonna do the other
We-
part.
Correct, later
Right.
on, correct. They wanted to concentrate on this one. We're doing everything at once. I believe
It's
they
not-
This
said.
is
It's
Red
not-
Creek, though, that's
Correct,
beyond.
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
That's
this
the
is,
Red Creek.
this is Red Creek.
Correct.
And I don't know that includes the skate park there.
So we spoke about last time.
Yeah, and they're not
There
sure
may be some
that
other-
it was used that much. There was the other one in, that they wanted to work on.
The one-
Right, but then they said we're gonna postpone it and then concentrate
And then
on the
come
Red
back.
Creek.
Yeah.
Because they had to do everything. They said that, their equipment was really in a.
Yeah, the construction originally was done poorly, and they really can't keep resurfacing, and
Right,
so they're
it's
gonna
right.
take
it's
everything out and
correct.
build new. They're
Yes.
not actually adding new
Yeah,
courts.
it's reached the end of its
Well, the
life.
construction was done over 20 years ago.
This
At
is
the
on-
time, it
on
was
the
state of the
racket
art,
sports, you said.
because I was in charge of that.
Basketball,
Just to
resurfacing
say,
hockey.
it wasn't that it was
Skateboard,
poorly,
yeah.
it was what
But
they
they-
Well,
Skateboard
but
technology.
it
at the
takes a
time.
lot, I guess.
they're
They're
ripping
trying to
everything
do
out.
But
it
it's
more.
like
Brand new.
22 through 23 years ago.
That's good. No, they need to do that.
We've gotten our money's worth.
Yeah, it's actually dangerous, you know?
All right, so the next one, 42069, is bond authorization of $1.5 million. This is for highway equipment. 42059, bond authorization of $2 million for reconstruction of the West Hampton Community Center at 112 Old Riverhead Road.
I'd like to be
West Hampton
added to
Beach.
that,
I
please.
was waiting for that. That's John's project. So, Sunday, you got John as a co-sponsor.
Do.
It's a community project.
I know, but it wouldn't have happened if you didn't push for it. so.
Yeah, well,
42054, bond authorization of $2.3 million for the expansion of town-owned police headquarters.
Like to be added as a co-sponsor, Cindy?
Sunday, could you add me as well?
So, yeah, we're building an addition to the police headquarters.
yeah,
So
well,
it's about time.
about time, yeah.
It's sorely needed, so, Sunday, you picked up a couple co-sponsors there?
I did.
All right. And that's 2.3 million.
I'm sorry.
Oh, John, go ahead.
Yeah, ID 41830, historic landmark designation of the structure recognizes the Diamond Family Farmhouse located at 14 Flying Point Road in Watermill.
And that's obviously subject to the hearing.
Yep.
And then 41908, it's a resolution setting a public hearing to consider amending Town Code Chapter 178, the East Quogue Public Drinking Water Infrastructure Improvement Program to add a sunset provision.
I'd like to be added to that too, and I welcome the board to, this has wider reaching consequences for us to be able to do this.
Yep. And then 42075 sets a public hearing to consider amending the town code to include special exception standards for living quarters for golf course employees. That's based on all the changes we made. And then, John, I think you're up next.
Yes, ID 41989 is a road review application for Anthony Mezzatesta. Suffolk County tax map is indicated in the resolution at North Sea is accepted. Town Board Resolution ID 41988, a road review application for Lido Soma and Mary Beth Soma. Suffolk County tax map is indicated on the resolution situated in Hampton Bays is accepted.
41949 appoints Christian Estrada to building inspector position in the building department. And then Rick, you got the last one.
Authorize the 2023 Earth Day Tree Seedling Program.
All right, so those last two are in that additional packet. Any questions on the agenda? All right, Sunday, you're good to
Thank
go
you.
with publishing it. And we're only 20 minutes behind schedule, so not too bad. Thank you guys for waiting over there. So let's bring, thank you, Dorothy. That was very helpful.
Thank you.
So let's get Janice and Michelangelo and Kathleen up to the front. We have 3 chairs waiting for you.
No gummy bears?
No gummy bears, the board's favorite subject here. So, so a lot has happened since the last time we spoke. You know, there are 4 towns in Suffolk County that did not opt out of the 2 provisions that you were allowed to opt out of, which was the lounges and the dispensaries. The other 3 towns have all put zoning in place already. We're the only one who has not actually done the zoning. But Brookhaven, Riverhead, and Babylon all have zoning in place now. There's already dispensaries open in New York State. I know there's one in New York City. The Shinnecock, now there's marijuana available for sale at tobacco places, plus they're also building a dispensary. The Nation is going to build a dispensary, which is going to open in May. So marijuana is already legally for sale within the town of Southampton. But of course, we're not getting any of the sales tax revenues that are associated with it, and there's only one area where people can legally go to purchase, which is the Shinnecock Reservation. The other big thing that's come out is New York State, actually, which is what we were waiting for, put out their rules, or at least tentatively, their guidance. So if you recall, the last time we debated this, we had our own sort of setbacks. Besides, the state originally had said, you gotta be 500 feet to a school and 200 feet to a house of worship. Then the state added some more setbacks from community facilities and from other things, so we had kind of wanted to wait a little bit. And we were debating what type of zones we thought were appropriate or not appropriate for, we really have been focused primarily on the dispensaries, not the lounges. So Michelangelo, I know, we're following this pretty closely, and Kathleen, you sent out a memo with sort of summarizing what the state had put out. And Janice, you've been working on it, so I don't know if we should wait for John, but do one of you guys want to kick this off?
Well, I just will, and just quickly just say that everything you said is exactly what we were gonna say, and Kathleen's just gonna go over specifics of the state memo right
Sorry,
now.
I'll steal your thunder. So,
No,
there's
it's
there's-
fine,
I
that's good.
always leave a lot out, so.
We brought some maps just to show you, you know, we mapped out what the state regs say. So those are the maps that you have. And then Kathleen's gonna go over more specifically what, the
So you
guidance
mapped out
is.
areas that you cannot do dispensaries in, or you can?
It's sort of like the setbacks. The little, you'll see little yellow with like a line, that's the setback. It's tiny and they're big.
So those are areas, any of those, within any of those circles, you cannot have a dispensary?
Correct.
Tentatively. So if I
Yeah,
may,
and
I'd
so we'll
just
go
like
over more
to
specifics,
speak
please.
a little bit about where the state is, because it certainly implicates your, what you're thinking about. So as we've talked about over and over again, the MRTA was signed into law on March 31st, 2021. The legislation created an Office of Cannabis Management, OCM. So you'll hear a lot about the OCM. And the job of the OCM is to set forth the rules and regulations for adult use cannabis. In short, that regulatory process has begun with OCM adopting regulations. And it began in that on December 14th of 2022, they submitted a notice of proposed rulemaking to the Secretary of State for publication to begin a public comment period. So that is about 283 pages. I'm going through that now. That's what's posted, that's what's available for a public comment period. Those are the proposed regulations. And that public comment period ends on February 13th. In the meantime, because conditional licenses were issued by OCM, they sent out this guidance document, which is what I shared with you, on October 28th, which in sum is aimed at providing a framework for those people who have conditional licenses on how to operate before these regs are finalized. So in doing so, the guidance document, as you probably saw, also helps to clarify some of the conditions and/or details surrounding where you can cite these retail dispensaries. We will be comparing the guidance document to the official regs to see if there's any discrepancies or inconsistencies. So far, I haven't found any, but for one issue with as it relates to the hour of sales. But you are able to participate in this comment period. So I would urge you to read the guidance document. And if there's something in there that you feel strongly about that you want to comment on, we can see where it is in the official regs, if it's mimicked or if it's been changed. And then there is a procedure for submitting a comment to OCM. They will respond to all comments. It sounds a little bit like a DEIS. So I just wanted to make sure you understand that you do have an opportunity until February 23rd to submit comments.
I mean, I read the guidance and didn't see anything that we couldn't live with in terms of crafting legislation or zoning.
Right.
I was actually surprised that they had all these restrictions, because we had put setbacks from libraries and community centers and all these other things, playgrounds, in the draft law that we had discussed. And actually, sure enough, their guidance now has all those things in it.
It does. And I just want to correct myself. Thank you, Janice. It's February 13th, which is
period.
the day, that's the end of the comment period, which is the day before your next
And
town
Kathleen, does
board meeting.
OCM anticipate changing any of the regulations? I mean,
My
you
sense
referred
is
to
no,
them as
because
reg-
of the guidance document.
Okay.
But listen, their website does say, we're interested in your comments, we want to hear your comments. So I think they'll consider them. I don't know
Okay.
that they'll change them. It seems like
but they are official, they're not pending, we
They're-
can work off of them.
they're drafted, they're
Okay.
on the publication, they're published for comment, but
Okay.
We can make certain assumptions, but,
Yeah.
until it's done, it's done.
yeah.
And
So.
Are they public meetings at all, or are they all the written comments?
I believe they've written comments. The OCM website, though, you can get direct links. You can ask to be notified of the meetings, and I think you can probably listen to them. I don't know if they're videoed, but I do know that there is a site where you can watch prior meetings or get transcripts of the prior meetings. If you remember, the last time we had a public hearing and the board decided to wait, a lot of those proposed regulations that we had put forth, that the supervisor indicated, are in there. A couple of things are different, but the signage, the distances, it's not too far from what we had initially drafted, so that's a good thing.
I think in one case, they might actually have a greater setback from community facilities than,
Than what we had proposed.
remember. Did we
Well,
have
they,
a
they,
500
they
foot?
add more specificity, which is helpful to us as to what is a community facility. As you remember, there were some public comments regarding whether or not somebody's parcel would be included, what that meant. So there is, and that's in that memo I provided you and also in the guidance document, there is some specificity as to what that
They
means, which is
also-
helpful.
And how they're measured,
Yes,
you know.
yes.
and
Right.
Line
Front door.
perpendicular to the
Yes.
front
Or center of the
door, to
property.
property line,
The schools are measured from the property line, as well as the community facilities. The houses of worship are measured from the door. So they want more of a setback from the schools, obviously, and the community facility.
So it's pretty safe to say that after the public hearing comment time period, that the regulations will be more restrictive, if anything, if there's any change at all.
I don't know the answer to that, honestly.
it's a-
It's hard to know what the public comments will be.
Right.
Other municipalities that are participating may want, I don't know, may want to see more or less setbacks.
Okay.
So I had a question about the first one that actually opened the retail establishment in New York.
in the city.
In the city. They are involved with their company is helping, it's like a shelter or people in need. They're
It's a
usually,
not-for-profit, yeah.
they're using I don't know how that's set up. Does what they're doing have any bearing on, or is there any kind of control? Obviously, there's the control of what kinds of businesses run this, but is that within the purview of this? The comments on the types of businesses that are allowed?
I think so, Councilman Bouvier. Part of the regulations addresses, general business requirements, who may apply for the license. If they've already received a conditional license, it's certainly within the purview of OCM and the CCB, so they've likely already determined that that business is appropriate and that there may be,
So that's in the licensing granting side of things?
yes.
And we're looking at the
Yes,
other
which we have
side.
no
All right.
control over.
Just wondering.
Originally,
Looking
though,
at how hours of operation and the retail sales.
when they
Yeah.
first
Okay.
proposed
New York
this,
State has a two-tier system based on Washington State.
I think they've taken out,
It's-
I mean, when they first proposed it, we were gonna have some oversight as to who would get the license. That
Yeah.
there was gonna be, I mean, I think it still is forwarded to us for comment, like
It
the
is.
way a liquor license is, but
Yes.
initially, we were gonna be able to look at the business plan, the business model, and then basically recommend particular vendors based on how many people they were employing, whether they were employing local people, how they were approaching their business model. I don't think that's part of it anymore.
No.
No.
I think it's really up to the state who gets the license. We're just controlling where it goes.
Yes, indeed, and that's in the statute. As you know, there's preference to justice challenged individuals, people who meet that definition, and that's strictly within the purview of the state.
Well, that's because their first round is these social equity licenses.
Right.
And that's being challenged in court. Could that have an effect on, well, I imagine on the state level, it's going to have an effect on who gets the licenses downstate.
Exactly, yeah.
They're saying it's a violation of interstate commerce clause.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people who want to get in this business, and
from out of state,
they
big
did this,
business.
Yeah.
they
They're
did
trying-
what-
The state is trying to keep the big companies out.
They did this thing, which I don't agree with, but they basically, the first round of licenses, you pretty much had to have had a prior conviction for possession of marijuana, or a relative had to have had that. It was kind of weird, that's, you know.
I think the logic was that they wanted the communities that have been impacted by, the cannabis being illegal, and now suddenly is legal. They wanted them to have an opportunity to also benefit from it.
Also, not just communities, but individuals who had been harmed in their mind by it being against the law. I don't know, I disagreed with that, but that was the state's position.
Still pro.
anyway,
So we're still at, and then Kathleen's memo sort of goes through, you know, and you want to continue on like hours of operation, drive-through, like the real practical side, and then always getting back to just where, what zoning district. That's what we're most interested in knowing.
right, and that's, I think, where we'll have to start to focus the conversation there, because I'd like to reintroduce zoning and get something on the books. And now we have the state guidance, we've got this map that shows all the precluded areas. And, you know, in my original legislation, I had LI 40, and was that it?
Well, no, there was LI 40, VB was contemplated, HB, and, you know, the standards that we had considered were 200 feet from community facilities. As we now are aware, the state's recommending 500 feet. We said 3,000 feet from one cannabis dispensary to another. The state's saying 1,000 feet. So much of what we've debated and contemplated, the state has offered some clarity on.
All right, so if I were to introduce with those changes, the legislation that we had, we still have to just go over what zones the board is comfortable with.
It was our
having a
understanding
public
there was
hearing.
some concern about losing LI 40 to LI 40 uses, locating in VB includes Hamlet Centers, HB and bringing and
SCB.
put the potential for shopping center business.
And it
because
would
you've
be
got-
like we said, highway business, but not east of David White's or west of David White's or something on 39.
We did say that because 39 really isn't for higher order goods and not meant to be for rapid
Retail.
retail.
Right.
So we can preserve our interest is always preserving the integrity of County Road 39. So that's why we did put that in there in that manner. But you can, you know, it's all up for discussion and you tell us
Yeah.
what you
I mean, we
prefer.
do have retail. I mean, PC Richards, for instance, is retail.
Sure, but it's just not, you're not going to buy a washing machine every day.
Yeah, but I go there and buy they have a lot of small items too. I mean, if you want to buy headphones, you go
The
to
durable goods.
PC, anything electronic.
It's like not like a 7-Eleven or something where, you know, you
Where you
stop
have a
every
high
day
traffic.
Right,
and
but
get
we do
something.
have a
All
seven.
related to traffic.
It's all related to traffic. Well, and not to pick on
Human
7-Eleven,
and
it could be
car.
anything. Something that you go to frequently.
Well, gas
is-
stations, we are frequent, I don't, but,
Right, well, the point was always to, you know, the ins and outs,
right.
you know, try to
Now, you
tamp
are
that
allowed though to
down.
deliver, right? So the state law
Yes.
definitely allows for delivery, which I suspect a lot of people would just get
And-
delivered.
And the
Only during,
drive-through.
only during the hours of operation of the store, to the extent that matters. So if you order something online at night, or you put a phone order in at night, it can only be delivered during the working hours of the business.
Right.
And
And
is
there's-
that restricted to the business, or can
Yes,
they?
it has to have a brick and mortar store in order to be eligible for delivery. So
Yeah.
they must have like an anchor, a place.
And there's a
can-
limitation
they
on
can have a
how
drive-through.
many people can be involved in the
Yes.
delivery operation
Well,
too.
if you allow it, right?
It says 25,
25 employees.
no more than 25 employees
Delivery.
may provide delivery services per week.
Per, yeah,
But who
dispensary.
regulates?
Per dispensary.
Who controls that?
The state.
State.
Totally up to the state.
So in other words, a dispensary can have delivery operation, but
Grubhub.
it won't be able to be like all over the state sending out because they're only allowed to have 25 maximum employees. right?
So is that a handoff delivery, or is that drop it on the stoop and go?
No, there's requirements
There's gotta be
for,
something, right?
yeah.
Well, I know what alcohol you have to sign, you prove of a legal age. I would assume the same would apply.
Yeah,
I did see it in there, I think.
Did you see it in there?
Yeah,
yeah, and even go into what is considered.
what they have to
proof
do in order
that-
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
Delivery.
the delivery vehicle cannot have any markings indicating that it would be transporting that product.
It requires signature,
They-
right?
yeah, there's a lot of thought that's gone into this.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so I just don't know how traffic intense this is gonna be because they're allowing the delivery. My guess is it's not gonna be that traffic intense. And, putting it on County Road 39 isn't the worst thing because a lot of your traffic that's like heading out to, let's say, the East End to vacation might stop in, but they're already on that road. Rather than pulling them off, into the, neighborhoods and side streets. I think that's our main road, County Road 39, but,
Well, there's
I-
no commercial zoning in neighborhoods or side streets. So
Well,
you
that's
have,
the
you
problem
have
with LI
Montauk
40
Highway,
is
County
you-
Road 39.
you do have these pockets of LI 40 that are in weird spots. I'm
But
not
I
sure.
can't, last night I had a meeting with the Trades Advisory Committee, and we discussed this, and we discussed LI 40 and the lack thereof in the town of Southampton. and we had this conversation about marijuana dispensaries in LI 40, and I would say they were strongly opposed only because they are now being shown locations in Brookhaven to base their businesses out of, because we do not have LI 40 available for them. I had one contractor inform me that a large 19-acre site in Quogue, which houses probably 20 to 40 contractors, was just sold and is going to be condos. So all of those contractors are going to be
Lots, yeah,
displaced.
That's in the Village of Quogue, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a big problem, and I don't know, I couldn't support putting another retail use in
Well, what if the
LI 40.
like, I'm concerned about these LI 40s that are sort of.
There's some in residential areas.
In residential areas, but the ones that are on the main highways, there's really two. There's that pocket on County Road 39, and then there's a pocket in Bridgehampton, where Agway used to be. Those are like, to me, that might be those two might be appropriate locations. But the other LI 40s that are sort of in the real industrial areas that are way away from everything.
Speaking of Rensenburg, also has that LI 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that has a little pocket of LI 40 on a main road.
And then
If it's on a
Well,
major
that's
highway.
a little shopping center that's right on Montauk Highway off of North Phillips.
Is that what that is?
I think that's what it is. It's not enough resolution, but that's
So
my suspicion.
I would be okay with LI 40 as
Or it
one
could
of
be
the
Cardsfield
zones.
Commons too, the retail side of that. But this looks along Montauk.
Looks like you got LI 40 up by, where is this? Oh, in Flanders, and then there's a pocket by Sag Harbor too.
I just can't tell what road that is. I can't
But it's not on a major highway, is it?
LI 40 and
It's
Sag Harbor.
It's Bridgehampton side.
Yeah, the turnpike.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, if it's on a major highway, I'm okay with it.
That's Sag Harbor Industries.
That's Sag Harbor Industries? That piece?
Row Industries.
That's this one,
It
right?
used to be, okay,
What is this
Most
pocket?
easterly one,
This
right?
LI
That up
40,
yeah, that.
Yeah.
So
in Bridgehampton?
can we specify in this LI 40, but not this LI 40?
yeah, we can say if you're on a county or state road.
Or are we opening ourselves up to litigation in that point?
Well, you certainly want to have an articulable basis as to why you're differentiating one zone from another.
It has to be on a major highway. If it can't be on a town road, it has to be on a state or county.
So that sounds
road.
like a special exception standard.
Yeah, but there's so
Can we
many.
get,
How do we define major
understand
highway?
what
Yeah.
suits are existing now that would affect?
It's like all the LI 40 on Old Riverhead Road
I
would
mean,
be
the
affected,
outcome
and
of
that's
those-
all
that
business
litigation could-
operated.
Who owns Old Riverhead Road?
I'll look into that for you.
Okay, thanks.
The one by the airport.
Well, yeah, a lot of.
I mean, that's all construction businesses, and that's all needed space, and I'd hate to lose it. I think we're gonna lose it.
If LI 40 accompanied other zoning districts, then it may not put the burden on the construction zones. You know, it'd be one of many choices that one could have.
Most of that zone you're talking about is blocked out because of BOCES. So you've got that big circle in that LI 40, that half of it is encumbered by that.
Well, if it's not as much of a walk-in business, as more delivery, as you were saying, Jay, that if I was somebody who wanted to get into this business, I would look for someplace where my rent is low, not along these high-rent areas, if I was more dependent on delivery than I was on walk-in traffic. You know, that's where I'm having trouble, because I don't really know this business, and I think it's evolving, and I think we need to.
Well, I think that some appropriate LI 40 properties, maybe we should zone some more things LI 40. But there's, those that are on major highways, it's fine.
No, my only point is that it could be a disincentive for people, because that's usually where it's higher rent than somewhere else. So depending on the business itself.
Well, this could be a high rent. Yeah, the
Yeah.
dispensary could pay their permanent rent.
It could, I just don't know what their model is.
Remember, the state's not gonna give 20 licenses out for Southampton.
We don't know that.
That's true.
Well, that's what they've signaled, that basically 2 or 3 per assembly district is what they're saying, so 2 would be probably all we end up getting
So
besides the
you've got at
reservation.
least,
Probably one east of the
Yeah.
canal, one west of the canal, but if, we don't wanna force it onto one particular property, we wanna give some choices. to me.
Well, we
So
should
do
look
you
at
want
the
to add
redistricting.
SCB then?
Well, all right.
Can we
let's
see, we should see those districts, because the redistricting also affected,
See what district? Confused.
you were talking about different districts, like
All the
Assembly
districts that are being contemplated are on this map.
They are, okay.
Yes.
They're
How
not,
many do you have? Do we know how many there are?
There are 4 zoning districts that we're considering.
Oh,
LI
on the zoning district, I was
Yeah.
talking more about where the state was, like, what they were using to allow giving licenses to certain.
We can't, we don't know that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, I don't know.
So someone gets a license and they go, great, I want to locate in the town of Southampton. This whole exercise is, where is it allowed? We're not saying everyone's going to do it, they want to be there, the rent works. We don't know any of those market forces, we just know the health, safety, and public welfare side of it. Like, if you're going to do it, here's where it's going to go. And if it goes there, setbacks, buffers, those things, hours of operation, that's our purview.
Also, something to think about is, all because it's more zoning districts allow for it, doesn't necessarily mean there'll be more cannabis dispensaries. It just allows for a greater,
Choice, so it's
Yeah,
not
right,
just,
yeah.
we push it all to LI 40 and now everyone wants,
and we have 3
drive up
cannabis
the prices
locations,
there.
Yeah.
1,000 feet from one another in an LI 40 zone.
Yeah, I don't even think anyone would want to do that. But the more choice, the better, but we could add LI 40 only in specific areas if you can articulate.
well, I'm okay with LI 40 as long as it's on a county or state
Traffic is
highway.
mostly the biggest thing, so an LI 40, you know, behind like Lee Concord over there is different than an LI 40.
It has to be in a non-residential area to me. If you're gonna be an LI 40, it's gotta be on like a
And then you're-
state or county highway.
And then you're targeting all the LI 40 that's open for businesses that aren't already impacting residential areas. I can't support LI 40 after what I listened to last night. I can't do it.
All right, well, I'm saying on major highways, which really only, that really is only two LI 40s that can comply with that I can see, maybe 3.
If we're still considering highway business and VB,
That's all the LI 40 in Southampton pretty much. It's all on 39.
Yeah, but we're saying west of David White's on 39, we're exempting on county, because we're doing highway business, and highway business is all of County Road 39,
That could be construed.
unless we don't do highway business.
That could be construed as discriminative.
Yeah, but we're going to get sued on that.
I don't know about that.
Well, as long as you don't just create like a class of 1 and only one parcel is eligible.
There's only
You have
one
to give a
parcel west of
decent-
David White's on 39 that's LI 40, so
No,
that's
there's
one
not.
parcel.
No, there's a whole bunch.
East of David White's on 39.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 different properties in that block of area. I mean, you want to block that out, though, because that's near where I live, I'm happy to block it out, but that's
I just say no 39 then.
then block it out completely, and then I don't, it won't be near me, but I think it's, County Road 39 in that area is a legitimate area to do it. You have the former Cankos building, and then you have the former Medical Arts building next to it, and then you have like a metal fabricating place, and then you have North Sea Plumbing, and you may have one other thing on the LI 40 side of the road. But you have a whole industrial park on the other side of David White's.
And I'm okay with HB, I'm just not okay with LI 40.
So you want to say HB, but not do anywhere on County Road 39 or nowhere on County Road 39?
Well, we have some HBs that it's like this one in the east, I'm looking at down on the, I'm not sure what, you guys know where that is? I can't read the map.
H,
It's HB,
is that like in,
it's on a water body.
On the west side?
Yeah,
It's this one, right?
yeah, I think that's
Beaver,
it.
it might be Beaver Creek, I'm not sure.
I'm not even sure why that's HB.
Janice,
It's on Montauk Highway.
where do we
Is
allow
it?
liquor stores?
So this is like the North Sea, this is what I was talking to you about before.
Probably.
So
Where do we allow liquor stores?
Well, I don't have the table of
Yeah.
uses here, but
Well, there's two
typically
here.
shopping center, village business,
HB's
highway
on.
business.
We should do that.
I would do that, but not village business, because I just feel like there's a lot of pushback initially from people to not have it on their main streets downtown, because all the villages opted out, and you're basically putting it on the hamlets to then have it on their main streets.
Right, I'm not crazy about the LI 40s either, taking away the,
Yeah.
we have enough properties that are
Yeah, I
using
mean,
that
I'm
as
fine-
non-conforming use as well, which we might want to
That's
consider
true.
changing.
HB and SBC, I believe, they're places you have to drive through. You're not, it's not where you're walking with your kids. It's on the outskirts of, but it's still retail-friendly areas.
But then any HB and any SCB?
Yeah.
or-
There's
or-
not that many, so shopping center businesses, we all know where they are. They're Bridgehampton Commons, Stop and Shop, King Cullen Shopping Center. It's not even shopping center business, that's a PDD, so that's out.
It's not that, no.
Wild by
Ma-
Nature, and
Macy's.
Macy's.
Yeah.
That's all we have.
Those are the only shopping centers.
I'm fine with those. I mean, if that's where we're gonna put it, I think it should be somewhere that's retail, that doesn't take away from other uses that aren't permitted in retail areas. And it keeps it off of Main Street.
Well, in some places, Montauk is Main Street.
Well, but that's usually VB.
So you're saying,
Yeah, but in some places it's not, that's.
so HB, anywhere in HB and anywhere in SCB?
Except for those obvious places where you're precluded.
Where they're
those
precluded by
orange
setbacks.
circles
Right,
are.
so, but we're not excluding then County Road 39. We're just saying County Road 39, anyway, HBs, so that's like the Carvel in Bridgehampton could potentially be a dispensary.
But that's not 39.
No, that's highway business zone. It's fine. I mean, look, the market's gonna drive where these things go. It's just,
And currently, there's one license. You said they're looking at 2 or 3 per assembly district?
that's what I heard.
Okay.
So you're not gonna,
And
you're
that's
not
my
gonna be a
point about
ton
the
of these.
redistricting,
That's from
because that's
Moriches
changed.
to Montauk and Southold currently.
Some of these assembly districts have changed.
So,
Currently, it's Moriches to Montauk to Southold. I mean, so if we have
you know,
3.
I still think there's LI 40 properties that are on major highways
It's a
that we
big
should.
district.
And if you guys don't wanna do VB,
Yeah.
that's a lot of areas. Those are your downtown areas, so your VBs.
VB, there are a lot of areas, but because of the setback, the buffers,
They're
it gets
tough,
quickly
because that's where you have all your
pushed to the
churches.
peripheral of VB.
And post office and libraries and
Right.
things like that. So,
Parks. So there's a lot less than you would perhaps think on the,
do we want to create a provision by, if somebody's not in HB or SCB, I guess they can go to the zoning board, but is there a provision by, they can petition to,
No, that's a use variance.
We would recommend
they
those.
they need a
It's
use
X who
variance?
gets a use variance.
Right,
Yeah.
or they could apply for rezoning. Right?
Right. I mean,
You have control
you
over that, so
decided
this is your
you would,
opportunity, yeah.
just to rewind this just a bit back, just to start over for one quick second, that you wanted to establish it and let people just go to the planning board. But there is always the option of doing an overlay district where people come to you and you land
I
it.
don't want to have it to come back to us.
Okay, so
But
I
I
just
do
want
want to
to
remind the
confirm
board,
that.
I mean, when I originally,
Okay.
I thought the low-hanging fruit was LI 40, right? Because when I looked at the code and I looked at uses that were considered negative sort of uses, societal uses, like adult entertainment, that's where they go, LI 40. LI 40 is the only zone where those negative uses go, so I thought, all right, let's start with LI 40. Now you guys are taking out those uses. The LI 40 for dispensaries, not for those other adverse things. They still can go to LI 40, but not a dispensary. So it's almost like saying a dispensary is worse than adult entertainment or something like that. I don't know.
The only thing is, LI 40 is not supposed to have retail, and it's not necessarily designed to accommodate the traffic that retail typically brings. So, many states and municipalities that initially put cannabis in LI 40 or similar zones eventually came around and decided that wasn't a good idea, and ended up rethinking the zoning and thinking of more of a retail use and keeping it in that mindset. Our conversation has somewhat evolved, and we're realizing that there's more of a retail component here than nefarious or negative.
Can you do a liquor store in LI 40?
I don't think you can. I think it's
only an HB.
Mostly retail.
dealers.
HB, SCB, BB.
BB.
You could always look at some of these LI-40s and eventually see what kind of uses those are and phase them out and change the zone to HB or SCB if they're on the highway and they're not really industrial uses, and then look at other areas that have maybe residential zoning but
So-
need some industrial.
So you guys are basically saying that you'd be okay with at least entertaining highway business and shopping center business?
Yep.
Without the other restrictions about east of David White's or west of David White, just straight out highway business and shopping center business? No VB, no LI-40. Well,
Yes.
let's put it up for hearing that way. Okay with that?
I'm good with that. I mean, there's so many opportunities here already. You don't have to add more into the mix.
You know, I know businesses, they're just looking for some guidance from the town. They want to, before they lock in the lease or whatever it is.
Okay.
And that's
so-
probably where they would gravitate to anyway, if I was, that's what I would do, so.
We had also discussed drive-through window pickup lane. We do have existing drive-through
We prohibit drive-through for fast food, right?
in some circumstances.
Are they allowed in HB and SCV?
Yes.
Okay.
So we just want to maybe emulate those standards, which are pretty strict. If you're gonna allow that, someone's gonna come in and say, I want a drive-through.
In the
And so
fir-
if we could
Yeah.
put the drive-through
No way.
standards in, you should think about that or not.
I'm
Say
saying
no
I'm
drive-through.
I'm just
drive-through
thinking,
liquor
there's a
stores.
bank in Hampton Bays
I
in
know, this whole
HB.
process is just pigeonholed.
With the drive-through.
Get a, with a good.
Oh, the Capital One?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just-
In the first instance, as it relates to drive-throughs.
we don't have the
this-
Starbucks drive-through in town, how can we have that? I mean, I don't get that.
Yeah,
you know.
and in the first instance for drive-throughs, the state has to grant permission for the drive-through. They have to give an app, so it's not.
So it's up to the state.
It's initially up to the state, and you'll see that in the guidance document at or about page 11. They must have written approval from
So-
OCM before any drive-through.
So
Can
in our
begin.
drive-through establishment code, where we say yes or no, you're saying no.
No.
Yeah.
I'm saying no.
No.
Well, put it in now,
no.
is
Okay,
that my point?
no, no drive-through.
No, okay, no drive-through.
Not when you can get delivery, I
No
mean,
vacuum tube.
There's no such thing as a drive, a
right?
drive.
I'd rather have one guy leaving with,
Alcohol.
going to 6
Drive-through
hours.
for liquor
Right.
stores.
Right, I'm just
I'm-
bringing it
I'm
up,
just-
so
I'm trying to
we
keep
are all
it
clear.
No drive-through.
common to something that we know a little bit about. A drive-through for.
No drive-through.
I know,
Period.
but now you go to Panera and you.
Get
can-
out of your
it's-
car
or
and go in the
Staples, and
door.
you can you park in special parking spaces and you get your
I don't think they talk about curbside.
Curbside.
delivery.
curbside, you know.
I don't think so.
I think most
I think
people
we're getting
would
ahead of
want
ourselves
to
on that
order.
No.
No drive-through, walk through the
Because
door.
in these dispensaries, I believe you have to like provide identification and those types of things.
So if I just maybe heard on the drive-through point,
I'm okay
I
if
would
we-
recommend that that be a written comment, because I am a little concerned that the state will say, we preempt you on that. We're telling you that if we allow them to do it, then they can do it. And so what I would recommend is that I can draft a written comment for this board
Yes, please.
to send indicating that, notwithstanding the state's interpretation, you do not believe drive-through should be permitted, particularly because delivery is allowed.
Well, can we include curbside if it's not included in their draft? Is it something they have considered? At least let them consider that. So that we
I'll look
understand.
into the regs. I don't know that.
So, yeah, they're saying you have to have placed your order in advance, and it's just a pickup lane. I'm just reading in the guidance.
So it's basically curbside pickup, but it's a drive-through.
Yeah, that's confusing.
But we have very specific things about drive-throughs, like the queuing lanes and the way it has to be.
We don't
If
wanna
you're
be
gonna be
preempted
that,
by the
we are very picky about the way those things go, so I'd rather know that we're saying, the
Why
planning
don't we-
board is
can-
saying,
Can
not
we just
happening.
prohibit drive-through in?
Well,
Well,
Kathleen
that's the
is-
issue.
she's saying,
have
put it in
not
a
yet
comment, you can
So we
entertain
need
it, we can add it
comment on
here,
that to
but
make
we
our
should
point.
know whether or not we're preempted. So if you're preempted, we would have to then strike it.
So to Kathleen's point, yes, I think we should include that in the comments. I appreciate that, and the curbside.
To me, that we probably,
Okay.
To make them
ultimately,
aware.
they'll probably have that.
Yeah, but can't, in this proposed zoning, can't we,
We're going to say no.
we'll say
But
that.
if they
But they
preempt
can
you, knowing that they, if they say, too bad, we make the comment,
So just
get
put
the
in unless
guidance, and they
such,
may say,
You know, prohibition
no.
is, prohibited by the state. Well, yeah, well, in the legislation, it will say no drive-through.
got it.
And we do that with fast food, so.
It depends, but yes, we have.
so-
Well, we have two drive-through
We have-
fast
we
foods
have
in
different ones.
Southampton, right? Burger King on
Yeah.
County Road 39, and McDonald's, and
Yeah.
One in Hampton Bays.
there's one in Hampton Bay.
And it's a good thing, not a bad thing.
I can't drive through the beverage and say, throw another 12-pack.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Can't go to the liquor store.
Dairy
Exactly why
Barn
that-
used to be
yeah.
that
And
way. back
put
in
the pot in the trunk.
Good. Couldn't do that.
Well, they clearly have, the Shinnecock second will have drive-through.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay, so I think we've covered everything. Do you?
Yeah, I just want to maybe just drop a footnote as it relates to the preemption issue. So in the state regs, which I didn't see in the guidance document, in terms of whether or not we're passing or proposing a law that's deemed unreasonably impracticable, somebody is allowed to, perhaps as an applicant or a constituent, somebody is allowed to bring our proposed law to the state and ask for an advisory opinion as to whether or not we're preempted. And they are allowed to pass upon that opinion, upon that proposed law, and tell us whether or not we're preempted. So I just want you to be aware that that's out there.
Sticking to those two big zones, I can't see them.
That's the
Kathleen,
same
does
stuff
that-
about the
Does that
zoning.
include rents? Because I know the rents are really prohibitive out there, but that's a market force that the state really
Correct.
can't
Yeah.
opine on. Okay,
Should,
that has been mentioned.
So
In
are you
Southampton
saying
specifically.
someone could take our law and ask for the advisory opinion, or we ourselves would ask for the advisory
I
opinion?
think we can talk about that, and we
Okay.
might want to ask ourselves.
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
So we can redraft the law to reflect what you've discussed today, and then Kathleen, write up a comment for the public comment period, and any other comments you might have, we can include to the state. Mike's talked to the state many times, and Kathleen, and they don't always think in terms of zoning, because they typically don't zone.
That's understandable,
So,
yeah.
there may be other things that we can add to that.
As far as the
And-
drive-through.
Maybe that's one of our
Has any
comments.
other town, they have, nobody's permitted the drive-through, I don't think.
I'm not aware, because I
And then
haven't.
Brookhaven mainly put them in the, like the supervisor mentioned, I think they put them in their sin zones, essentially, industrial, like
they
they did
have
with
a
their adult
ton.
entertainment.
But the
Have a
adult
ton of
entertainment,
space.
just to be fair, I was around during all those days when everybody was drafting all those laws, and they were meant to be at night, like late night, everything's closed. This is not, you have hours of operation, and they're
Right,
really
it is
in
a
the day,
different-
so
it's a
that's where you
complete-
have that
It's a
conflict,
different
so,
use, no question.
yeah.
Yeah, I did the one for Brookhaven.
Yeah. I was
can
in
we,
Spencer.
I know you guys haven't worked on it,
So
but
that's why
it,
so many cars go
and
by.
I don't know that, I haven't heard of anybody even looking to open a lounge, but, I mean, it seems to me like if you have a pre-existing nightclub, and you don't want to go from selling alcohol to having a lounge, I don't have a problem with that. Like, you'd have to like convert it from a nightclub use to a lounge.
Right, and you can't.
Yeah,
serve
the state
alcohol.
won't let you have both. You can't have liquor
And
and,
if you're already, letting people come and intoxicate themselves with alcohol, the lounges are actually a lot more restrictive, I think, than the nightclubs. So,
do you want to include that in this code now?
The only thing is, we haven't
I don't
received
know.
any
I don't know that the
guidance from the
state
state.
has,
Yeah.
I think they have tackled this one establishment at a time, from what I can tell. These regs do not appear to address on-site consumption.
They seem
unless-
surprised even when I asked
nobody's
about
shown
it.
any interest in opening on-site consumption in the town.
Because they would have to give up
We've
their
had
liquor
one
license.
inquiry.
We did?
Yeah.
But I think if somebody wants to
Seems like
give
a lot
up,
of liability.
we don't have a lot of legal nightclubs, do we? It's just a very
Well,
few, we advertise
we
them out.
advertise them, yeah. We used to.
So there's a handful of, there's bars and taverns, right? And nightclubs.
Yes,
And there's like very few of them.
very few.
I would be okay with I don't know about bars and taverns, but certainly nightclubs, maybe taverns too, if they want to switch over to marijuana.
But they would have to go to the state.
It
I would-
sounds
I
to
would
me
wait
like
for
we
their
should wait
guidance.
until we get
I-
that,
I-
or
Yes.
I
would.
think we should wait.
Yeah.
if we don't have any
Yes.
No, we can wait on it.
enabling legislation, then we can't do it technically, right?
Maybe we should just wait. Yeah.
Because we're
Guiding
only talking about
regulations.
2 or 3 licenses.
I just don't really see there be, like, I think
today.
people are gonna buy the product and they're gonna go home. I just don't know that it's something that people want to hang out in a lounge. Who knows?
There's cigar shops and hookah
Yeah.
bars.
Yeah.
Amsterdam,
Watching,
It
bunch of guys watching football games.
1923.
coffee and
Cigars.
marijuana, I don't know.
Okay, so we will put this
we
on
can
for
wait on the
hearing.
dispensary, on the consumption.
Okay, and
Should be
we'll
connected to an
redraft
eating
this.
establishment.
In terms of timing, you know, that
Yeah,
public comment
definitely.
period ends February 13th.
munchie
Do you want to wait to notice the hearing until on your February 14th meeting, or do you want the hearing soon? What are your thoughts in terms of timing? We can come back to you with draft
what are my choices
regulations
again?
prior to,
Draft it out, I would.
can come back to
The
work
hearing would
session.
have to be
I'm
a
willing
month
to-
out anyway, because it's chapter 330, so you're talking, even
I
if you
understand.
scheduled it at the end of January, you wouldn't hear the hearing until the end of February.
So if we, at the next, we've already done the agenda for the next
Should
town
be on the
board meeting.
24th.
It would have to be on the
Horrible.
24th.
We could put it on the 24th for a hearing in February.
Yes.
And the comment
I'm okay with that.
period ends 27th of February?
February 13th.
13th.
and the spring
And then
board.
do they have a time period to,
I'm sure they do.
So-
I'll
Announced.
find what that
Yeah,
time period is.
see if
But
that
yes,
has
I'm
any
sure
impact on-
they then have an opportunity to review the comments, respond to the comments before anything's adopted, which again is why this guidance, the interim guidance was issued, because they appreciate and they're
Yeah.
recognizing how long this is taking.
yeah.
And as far as the taxes, it's 4%, with 3% going to the state, 1% going to the town.
No.
Is that,
No,
okay,
no,
I have
no,
that
no.
totally
It's
wrong. Okay, what is it?
So it's there's a 3% tax that goes directly to the town. 1% to the county. And the state has their own tax on top of it, which is, I forget how much.
I don't.
Oh, okay, I had it inverse,
We
and,
get, this is the only thing we get sales tax on. There's not a single other thing that we get sales tax on, except for this, and it's 3%. So if you spend $100 on cannabis products, we get $3. It probably somehow moves to the county and then to us, but it's our $3, and they keep one. So there's $4 collected, they get one, we get 3. But the state also collects another, like $9 or something like that.
So
I'm
how-
sure.
how does that- how does
I'm
that
not
work?
doing all this work for free.
So it's like 14 or 15%, right?
Really?
Yeah.
How does that work with the Shinnecock?
Or you can go to the synagogue.
So
too.
the
They're doing a 4%,
The Shinnecock's are not subject to any of those taxes.
I imagine they have.
but
a
they're doing
contract.
4% for themselves,
They're doing a 4% tax for
for
themselves.
social equity programs and,
Right. So if a private vendor on the Shinnecock reservation sells it, they will collect an additional 4%, which will go toward the nation's social programs. But they're also opening their own, the nation is going to have a dispensary, as I understand it,
Well,
too,
that's,
with the
that was kind of
partnership.
my question, is like, now who owns what?
And, yeah, I don't know whether there'll be a tax at the nation's own dispensary. But I think the total tax is something in the neighborhood like 14% between the state and the town and county, all the pieces that gets added up. And
But that's not subject to the limitations on the issuances of licenses by the state? I mean, we're talking 2 or 3 here. That's independent of the nation. Right? So, okay. Just
You know,
making
it will,
making
you
a
know-
point. I'm not sure what point I'm making.
But if you go to a dispensary in the town, you will pay more in tax than the reservation. But probably about, it'll probably be about 10%.
I guess the question is, how does a federally recognized tribe have to abide by the state regulations and state laws? I mean, I would assume that would be with the federal government, but
So
that's,
anything that's
may not be
legal-
a question for this.
Anything that's legal in New York State is legal on the reservation. But,
Okay.
You know, there are some rules involved, like with gambling and things like that.
Yeah, so it's not always clear.
Okay.
They can promulgate their own sets of rules.
There was an article in Newsday about 6 months ago, about the Poospatuck Reservation and the Shinnecock Reservation, and their current sales of product.
Yeah, I know there were some
Today.
issues in the
Mention the
past
revenue.
with cigarettes and
No
sales.
mention of the revenue.
No.
Vacuum
You can't
seal.
find it either.
Yeah, I know there have been issues in the past with cigarette sales and to what degree they're supposed to be charging the taxes on cigarettes that get sold at the reservation. And my understanding is that they are supposed to collect sales tax for cigarettes, but unless they sell it to people from the reservation. It's a whole weird thing.
Yeah, and how do you?
Jim, you familiar with that? There's like a big county issue with the sales tax on cigarettes, and there was litigation.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, so are we done with this conversation? You guys-
Absolutely. We'll come back with a revised law.
I'll introduce it.
SCB, highway business, no LI-40, no drive-throughs.
Yep, no
No
prohibition on 39.
No
No VB.
No VB.
No
No
VB,
VB.
just
SCB,
highway
HB.
business and,
Yep.
no
And shopping
HO,
center.
Correct.
No HOA, no HC, no any other zone.
just
No
two
drive-through.
zones.
highway business and
Okay.
shopping center business,
With no CR 39 restriction.
no 39 restrictions.
Okay,
All righty.
sounds good.
Thank you.
you so much.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Thanks, Janet.
Take care.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks,
Thank you.
Kathleen.
Thank you.
Okay,
You got the
Janice, did you put together any estimates? Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. I got it. All right, so let's do a few updates, and then we'll do executive session. All right, I mentioned this at the organizational meeting, but we are getting some federal money. The infrastructure program that the federal government approved, and I know Janice just left, but she was instrumental in applying for money for the Riverside Sewer District. So we're being told by Senator Schumer's office that we're getting $5 million in federal funds for the Riverside Sewer District, which is a significant amount of money, and we're certainly grateful to Senator Schumer for his role in making that happen. So a reminder that work sessions, every Thursday, 10:30, so we changed from 10 to 10:30. I mentioned that was due to basically traffic concerns. And then just a little note, you all saw that email from Ryan about David Lippman and the town litter crew. During the height of COVID, where we had a lot of discarded PPE, personal protective equipment, masks and gloves and things like that, we initiated TLC, the town litter crew, and it started out with a number of people, including this guy, Dave Lippman, but and now we've kept it going, but just with one guy in a pickup truck, who were, during 2022, picked up over 16 tons of garbage, which is just that's 32,000 pounds, over 32,000 pounds of garbage. So he's a one-person crew who's really just doing a remarkable job and seems to actually enjoy it. So that's, it's something, we're fortunate to have him, but I know the public enjoys too, seeing cleaner roadsides and parks and things like that. A lot of the coordination comes through SOS. So when people complain about litter, they do it on that online system that we developed, and then he gets dispatched to go and address it, but he's also proactive. He's not just waiting to somebody to tell him, go deal with this spot. He's out there driving around looking for garbage.
Yeah, I've had two occasions where I called him up after getting a phone call or a text message in the morning, and he calls me and he says, I've already been there. He knows, he has a few places in mind, and it's great to have somebody that reacts so quickly. It really is.
No, and absolutely. So let me, and I also mentioned that we're getting a $2 million grant through New York State for ADUs. We had applied in partnership with CDC-LI. We're gonna have to develop this grant program. What basically is they will allow, I'm gonna say up to $120,000 per property. Might even be a little bit higher. Which is a significant amount of money to build out, to convert a garage to an apartment, or basement to an apartment, or a section of a home to an apartment, or even add on to a home potentially. $120,000 is a nice budget. You've got to put the bedrooms in, the doors, whatever it is. electrical, but that is a decent amount of money. But there's obviously restrictions with our own code in terms of where accessory apartments can go and how big of a lot you need. And the state grant requires the homeowner to, I think, be 80% of AMI. And, you know, I explained when I was meeting with CDCLI that that's not going to be so easy to find homeowners that make 80% of AMI, just because to be able to afford to buy a home and live in this area, it's very tough at that number, but.
Or
some
Long
of the-
Island in general.
Long Island in general.
Not just us.
However, there's probably a number of people who've been here for many years who, maybe they're retired now, they bought that home a while ago, or maybe their income was greater years ago, but now they meet that 80% AMI. So we're gonna have to work a little bit with IT and with the assessor's office. Maybe properties that have star exemptions, particularly enhanced star exemptions, and have accessory buildings are good targets that we can maybe reach out to some of those homeowners. If you're one of those homeowners, this is a significant source of revenue that you'll be able to get this additional rent. And particularly for somebody who, you know, doesn't make a lot of money and is trying to live in this area and maybe has a limited income, to have that rental income, CDCLI does all the work, right? We're gonna help identify these properties, but they will usher it through the building department. They'll work, if it needs zoning board, that's their job, is to get all the permits in place, work with the contractors, and do all of that. And they have basically $2 million to work with, so you'll hear more. Gwen O'Shea is the contact person at CDCLI, and we're gonna put this program together. How many do we get for $2 million at, you know, 100,000 an apartment, you know, 20 maybe, tops, probably a little bit less, because they'll go above that in some cases, so, but let's say at tops, we'll see 20 accessory apartments that come out of this. It's a good thing. It's a good thing for those homeowners. It's a good thing for the people living in it. Obviously, we want essential workers living in there. We really, this housing issue is really, you don't need to hear it from me. You know how it's impacting our area, but it's getting really dire. You know, for the schools, for the town, for the hospital, we have to have places where the people that service our community can live. You know, the ambulances, our volunteer ambulances are becoming paid ambulances, and even with, you know, the paid EMTs and paramedics, they still can't find people paying them because they can't pay them enough to live in our area, and they have to be able to respond. So we have to do better on, you know, particularly east of the canal, creating apartments, whatever it is, homes for the very people we need to sustain our communities. You know, we talk about our high land values, and it's great, but how do we keep high land values if our communities become unsustainable? So,
It's a good time to look at our ADU legislation.
we can look at
Currently,
our-
there are sections of the town that would not qualify for these grants. So you may want to exempt them, or do something.
Open it up a little
Code-wise,
bit.
yeah.
Open it up.
Especially with declining school enrollments, you know.
Yes, and particularly, the problem is particularly bad east of the canal, where if you look at the AMI and you compare it to the median home price, you know, the average price that a home sells for, it's at least 10 times what the incomes of local people are. You know, you really shouldn't buy a home more than 3 times what your gross wages are. It's really becomes cost burden. And 10 times is you're way out of
I did.
You're way out. Yeah, a lot of us did, and a lot of us busted, you know, we worked really hard, you know, worked more than one job, whatever it is, to make that note. But, you know, if you have a $200,000 combined income, you shouldn't really be buying a house more than $600,000, particularly at today's interest rates. Well, you're good luck finding something for $600,000. And $200,000 combined family income, you're not even eligible for any of our programs. You're well above AMI. You're still priced out of the housing market. So it's and people are doing it. They're buying that $1 million house, and they're making personal sacrifices, and they're doing whatever they can to live in the community. But it's not just really for them. It's for, we need a nurse at the hospital, right? We need somebody to drive the ambulance. It's for the rest of us, too, that we've got to figure this out. So I am working with Kara on some legislation, to look at some of these more extreme cases and see if there's some relief that we can build into the code that'll make it so that the numbers work. Maybe allow some density increases in certain spots. So rather than building one 6,000 square foot home, maybe you build a few smaller houses on a large property like that. Can't do it now, but I want to have some conversations this year with the board about doing that kind of thing in the most extreme areas. So other than that, I'll kick it to you guys. You guys have any updates you want to make the board aware of?
No, I don't.
Not at this time.
And just a quick update, Youth Bureau, they do have an open mic night. We talked about the first one, it was very successful. So it's this Friday at Hampton Coffee, 6 to 8. It's open to grades 5 through 12.
I did meet with Trades Advisory Committee last night. One of the topics we discussed was the leaf blower legislation that went into
Leaf
effect.
blower, yeah.
I did check with code. There has been 5 complaints since it went into effect. 2 of those were, I guess, neighbors. The question and the issue that came up was that the industry did just, I don't know if some of you got emails from constituents on the leaf voucher program going out. So a lot of people saw invoices for that. The industry was expecting legislation to support, financially the changeover to electric equipment. Unfortunately, the governor is set to veto that legislation.
She did
She
veto
did.
it, and I haven't seen the veto memo yet, but I did speak with Assemblyman Thiel. They're going to reintroduce, first thing on the agenda, there's a little bit of, it was really based on a lobby from NYSERDA, as I understand it, that money would, it still may end up being helpful in that way,
Yeah.
but it's not direct, so we're still fighting that one right now.
But it is going to hurt because all these businesses are now going to have to retool for the spring and get all that equipment with no financial assistance. So it's just something they asked that we look at. That's all I have.
You're going to hate me, but I do have some more. All right, so next Friday at 11, Friday the 13th, Fred Thiel has pulled together a big meeting on the new housing fund and how we're going to administer the housing fund. It's for all 5 towns. It's out in Sag Harbor. You probably can go to it, I think.
Next Friday?
Next Friday, it's
13th.
at the Sag Harbor Cinema. And, obviously all these new forms have to be put in place. So people who are closing deals now actually aren't, I don't believe, collecting the money that was approved in the referendum. It'll start, I think, second quarter.
Don't you have to go into contract after the date it goes into
No,
effect?
I believe it's when it's sold.
Is that a
But
public meeting? I understood it was not.
On Friday?
Yeah.
I mean, I will find out, but I have it on my calendar. But if you guys want to attend, let me know, and I will try to get permission to include you.
Yeah,
You want to be there?
I'm going to be.
You are going to be there.
He's there now.
So there's another CPF thing that's important that I wanted to mention. And so another bill that Fred got through Albany had to do with the pilot programs, the CPF pilot programs, and the governor signed it. So I just found out about it, that the Governor Hochul had signed it. So as you guys know, it started out with just these Pine Barrens school districts that were eligible for the CPF pilot program. And then we added a few, I think, East Quogue and Hampton Bay sort of to that. Originally, I think it was maybe just Flanders.
Eastport and Riverhead.
And Eastport we added. I guess it was
Flanders doesn't have a
originally
school
Hampton
district, it's
Bays-
Riverhead.
It was originally, I think, Hampton Bays and Flanders, and we added East Quogue and
Yes.
Eastport, right?
Right, so currently we have four of our 13 school districts
Right. So the-
qualify for
so
pilots,
the laws
along
now-
with the fire districts and library district.
So the laws now changed, they're actually, all of those are out. They're all out of the pilot program. Everybody's out. And we're allowed to put districts in. And we're supposed to make some sort of finding about economic hardship. But we can put all four of them in. We can also add to them. So if we wanted to add, let's say, Tuckahoe School District, would like to be a CPF pilot program, we're still limited that it's, 10%. So the more we add in, eventually, we may not be able to give them the same amount of money. But it includes pilots from not only CPF lands, but other preserved state and county lands.
But it also, one of the issues that we ran into was that some districts don't have as much CPF property in them.
Right, and honestly, Tuckahoe School District doesn't have much.
Much.
I think that the number's like $100,000 in pilots that they would get,
Right.
something like that.
I mean, I think you have to really look at that, because if you start adding everything and you dilute that, I mean, it's gonna hurt some really districts that really need that funding.
Well, typically what they've been doing is the way the law was, they would apply for it, so some school districts have done that. And a lot of schools weren't aware that they had that option to do that. And that was one of the reasons we went to Fred to see if we could get that changed. But then the other part of it was that there was not enough CPF property. Sometimes the pilot isn't equitable because the amount of CPF is not, doesn't help with that. And then you're, as Jay said, you're limited by the 10% overhead anyway. So, but it's helpful in smaller school districts, definitely school districts that, sort of get by on.
So,
on the edge.
this is great, and I'm so appreciative that we have this ability. We do have to sort of pick the winners and the losers. And obviously, every school would want this.
We have to
Everybody wants
determine criteria.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we
Yeah.
Well,
do.
there is criteria in this bill. Now, I don't know
Yeah.
how we make the determination that not giving them the pilot would result in extreme economic hardship. I think we make an easy argument with those four that are already in.
Yeah, it's
Then
tax
clearly,
rates.
if we took that money away, they would have
They're
to.
dependent on it.
they're
Well, the
dependent.
other issue is, though, if you start adding a ton of districts to that pool, you're going to hurt them
Right, so
financially.
right now, we're
As long as you're up to the 10%, you're okay.
not
Until
at the
you-
10%
Yeah.
yet, not even close, but we could have a year where the CPF revenues go down quite a bit. So I know Tuckahoe would like to be included. My guess is they all are going to want to be included. Southampton, Bridgehampton, Sag Harbor, they're all going to want to be included. We're just going to, within each of those districts, there are pockets of people who really could use the tax relief. There are. I mean, Bridgehampton, we think of it as a really wealthy community. Not everybody's wealthy in Bridgehampton. Tuckahoe School, you have, pockets that could really deserve it. And they have some very wealthy areas in Tuckahoe School District too. Southampton School District, you've got all of North Sea. Some of it is, people of, limited means certainly. So we're going to have to pick the winners and losers. That's not an enviable position.
Your
But
tax rates.
so I have set up a meeting. Jackie's working on setting up a meeting. I'm gonna have to do a work session. We're gonna have to do a work session on this. And we're gonna have, Jim, we're gonna need a resolution now because the schools are working on their budgets. Their cycle is,
May?
yeah. And they need to know if they're getting this money or not
Well,
getting
what
this
they
money.
really need to know, where I keep running into problems, is actually defining the school district and the CPF properties that lie within that. And then there's some calculations, because some of them lie across the district, and how you deal with that. So not all schools, it's not, and I don't mean to contradict you, I don't think we pick and choose. I think a lot of this is determined by the CPF properties and what reserve is, or what
That's actually
amount
not,
of money.
I don't think that's an issue.
And
because
state and
when those
county.
properties-
And state and
The legislative intent was to make school districts library districts, and fire districts whole from when properties were purchased and taken off of those tax rolls,
Right.
so that they didn't, bear an undue burden of preservation. And essentially,
Right.
during the Pine Barren preservation area, there were large swaths of land that were taken off of the tax rolls within those school districts that would affect those districts' ability to deliver a fair and equitable education. So I think that should be the standard that we utilize and
So just
and
to,
need.
to respond to John, yeah, so it's really the sole assessor
Right.
determines what, if that property hadn't been preserved,
Right, what it-
based
What-
on the
what
value
taxes
when
would
we
be
acquired
generated
it,
from that?
what would it be paying in taxes? So there are properties that might be split into different school districts, but how much would that school had received if it wasn't preserved? And Lisa's certainly capable of calculating
Yeah, have to
that.
do that, sure.
Yeah, it's-
Well, the-
I'm
What the,
I'm just
what the
pointing out
gross
that
amount
there's a
is,
lot
and see how
to
close
this.
it is to
Yeah.
that percent.
Okay, we need to meet on this.
I
There are
mean,
pre-sale numbers, they exist.
I think it's obvious that we're not taking away any money from the 4 districts that currently get it, correct? So really, it's just a question of, do we want to add additional districts? Tuckahoe would like us to add them. They probably all would like us to add them.
Well,
so-
Rimsburg's beyond, it definitely wants to be added. This, actually, it was that school that started this out and came to see us, so.
Really?
Yes.
All right, so guys, how do you want me to approach this?
I think we need to look at the districts and,
Do we want to hold some kind of public hearing on it? Do we want to?
I think we gotta
I
get,
think we have to have a work session first and
First
find
yeah,
out what the
work
well,
numbers
let's
are.
get a calculation from the
There's
There's a
assessor.
lot to
Yeah.
this.
As
There
to-
ought to be some sort of calculation that we, rather than just us picking,
Over 25% of your land in preservation?
or should we, I mean,
I
or
think
should
you
we
need to
base it
understand
We
on?
get it, we gotta get a
Picture
gross
first.
number first,
uh,
and then
base
so we
it
know what we're
on
dealing
what the
with.
census
Yeah.
says the
And if it's
incomes
above
in
this
that area
10%.
are, whether they're,
But I mean, I'm going to make the argument that you could say that there's properties that have increased in value because of the land that we've preserved. I mean, privately owned properties that are high-end, privately owned properties that have increased in value because of the preservation that we've done.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
of course you get
no
the flip
question.
argument
That's
that
part of, you're exactly right, that's part of.
many times,
I think there has to
Somebody
be a
proposed-
tax,
We need to see
I
the
think
whole
I think the
picture
tax,
first.
the existing tax rate has to be part of the equation.
what's that now?
The existing tax rate in relation to the total assessed value of the district.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
you have to do
that's
a
the other part of
calculation
that
as to what-
equation.
Yes.
Yeah.
but that
If you
doesn't
was-
tell us anything about
But, yeah.
people's ability to
Hey,
unless we somehow bring in that data from the census in terms of what the average income in an area is.
and we also need to see the state board
I
of
mean,
education.
you're talking about
and
areas
how
with like a $3 tax
They
rate
might
versus a
just
$17
take
tax rate. I mean, there's a huge discrepancy there.
We also have a school equalization formula that is applied in the 13 school district throughout the town of Southampton that
Yeah.
we could utilize as well in
Yeah,
some
you
way.
have to,
Welcome to school funding.
yeah.
Right, but
We
need Really?
everybody
numbers.
is collecting the tax on the sale of the properties. Is it fair for us to say, take the money that gets collected, let's say, east of the canal and channel it west of the canal?
That's what New York State BOE does.
In a-
That's
in a way they
unfortunately
do.
part of the problem.
In a way, they do, but then
No,
we
they
They
do.
take it from
make
Long
sure that the
Island
school
and
districts
spend it
that get
upstate.
it,
Yeah.
That's
the
how they
school
do it.
districts that get
But-
that, everybody wants that tax relief. I want that tax relief, everybody should get that tax relief, but we're not giving it to everybody. We're sort of saying, this is in general a wealthier area. We're not gonna give you that tax relief, but we're gonna give it to areas that are lower income areas, but, where?
Well, I feel like we're guessing a lot of stuff and really
We
like
need
to
numbers.
see
Yeah,
this.
we need the number, we need the
See-
gross number
See it
first.
holistically.
Yeah.
It has perspective.
I think as long as-
that 10%?
As long as our methodology is fair, I'm okay with it. But it's gotta be fair, and it's unfortunate that even within some very wealthy school districts, there are people who could really use the relief. There are pockets, even like within Southampton Village, there are, there are areas where, incomes are significantly lower.
I mean, and you could make the argument that there are places in the West where people could use 3 times the amount of relief that they're getting to,
Right, well, we're probably giving relief to some people who don't need it, even in those areas.
To the districts, not individuals.
Right.
Okay.
Ironically, sometimes we buy properties that have a proposed subdivision because the school district doesn't want to see the impact of that subdivision, so we buy them we buy the land for open
You know,
space.
a homeowner
That's the
in
irony
East
there,
Quogue
so.
living on the ocean is getting this relief. Do they need it? No, but they're getting it. Yet, you know, if you're living in the Hill here in Southampton Village, you're not getting that relief. You know, so it's not a perfect system.
Not by any stretch, and in the west, in particular, in parts of Eastport, where the school taxes are, you know, upwards over 90% of their tax bill. You know, each area is different. That's why I'm going to keep saying it. We need to look at this holistically and not speculate.
Right, so in the meeting that I'm having, I've got a lot of people in this meeting, from the tax receiver to the sole assessor to IT to Jim Burke's office, the controller's office. We're trying to get a handle on this new ability and how to approach it. And I think, Tommy John, I've asked you to be in there as liaison to see, or John, no, I think you as liaison to CPF.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if you recall,
I am
this was
too.
something that we started
there's so
many
many
years
different
ago.
departments.
I know.
So, and then we'll pull together a work session with the whole board. We just have to keep this moving pretty
It has to be
quickly.
soon, yeah.
We have to keep it moving pretty quickly. But I think definitely we should be able to signal to the schools that currently get it that we're not gonna be taking it away. So they can plan on it. And the question is, will anybody else get it?
They're starting their budget processes now.
Now, yes.
Now.
And
And the vote will be
Tuckahoe's
in
already
May.
reached out and wants to know if they're gonna get it. So,
And, right, we've been targeting that particular school district for preservation and on a number of different pieces. And so what happens there is that the other taxpayers make up the difference.
yeah. Listen, I'm glad we have this ability. I am. I'm glad that Assemblyman Thiel has been able to secure us the ability to make this decision. Well, I'm not gonna say it's gonna be an easy decision.
Well,
You know.
in all fairness, we asked for it.
We did ask for it. We asked for it, because Tuckahoe School, now you're saying Remsenburg also, I wasn't aware
Remsenburg
of
was who approached us. You and I sat in a meeting with Denise, I'm sorry, I can't.
So did
that. Oh,
Tuckahoe.
Sullivan?
Sullivan,
Denise
yeah.
Sullivan.
And she, you know, she's been very patient, and we
Yes.
talked to her. But it represents, if you talk about equity, a small school district like that, it has a hell of a bigger impact than in larger school districts.
Yeah,
And
you're
it's
right.
meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, I mean, what you said about the districts that have it keeping it, you're talking in East Quogue, that district would need to cut probably 10 positions to make up the difference of that loss. It's very
And
significant.
it is.
Yeah.
It makes a difference, and it.
And it also,
it's-
on the flip side, it allowed us to not cut positions by receiving that and being put in that. That was a year we were in a really bad spot, and getting that relief really
Really helped.
saved teachers.
Yep. Well, I think it's an important program, and we don't want the communities to be hurt in any way by our land preservation efforts. And we are taking land off the tax rolls. There's no question about it. And that's great for these communities. They have more open space. But, you know, you look at an area like Flanders, which has got like 80% of the land is off the tax rolls.
Well, you also have a split school district there, which
this
is
is true.
problematic on its face also,
Right.
you know, so.
And I think, Tommy, you mentioned that the tax relief goes not just to the schools, but to ambulance and
And library.
library and fire.
Mhm.
But we don't get it. Town doesn't get it, but we're town-wide. We're not a special district. We're special.
I just want to make the final point that not one, in this case, not one rule fits all.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. You know, and I mentioned our 13 school districts, and Riverhead School District does go into Flanders all the way into near Hampton Bays, the Red Creek area. You know, so
Into Hampton
it's one of our larger geographic school districts. They received over $50 million in state aid, whereas a school district like Sag Harbor received $1.9 million. Hampton Bays received $11 million in state aid. So, you know, we do have those numbers. You know, they are kind of crunched for us from the state, and we would be, I think, well-served to take a look at what the state does with school funding when we determine what we do with these pilot projects, or
Yeah,
pilot
and
payments.
their sources of
And-
information, like
Right,
census
well-
and things that really don't make a whole lot of sense if you actually look at it.
Yes, thank you, Councilman. But, I mean, we have some school districts that have very, very large tax bases, so.
All right.
There's a lot there.
So it's all on your radar now, so that, which is good. So for executive session, we have personnel, we have CPF acquisitions, we have updates on litigation and confidential legal advice. So I will make a motion to end our work session and go into executive session on those items.
Second.
Seconded by